Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you again for another podcast episode and with a beloved assistant and colleague, I would say. And she's been an assistant in our programs in our IHTP. She's a wonderful, intuitive, and really teacher in her own right. It's Ilene Leshinsky, and we're honored to have you, Ilene, to talk with us about our bodies as master teachers. And I'm looking forward to diving into what that means. So good to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited about being here too, and I'm just so happy to share this space with you, Wendy.
Wonderful. So I'm first going to just mention here, Ilene does have a book, and it's called Reflections of a Fat Girl: Wisdom Lost and Found from Growing Up Overweight. And so we're going to talk about body wisdom, but from various perspectives. But I also wanted to point out that I'm probably going to mention a few things. She's got a lot of myths that we're sort of debunking in some ways that are really in our social construct around body image in general. So we'll talk a little bit about her book, and also I'm really going to start with Ilene. What led you to focus on the importance of body wisdom?
Wonderful question. And it starts with my being fed by my mother in response to anxiety because she was getting messages from my grandmother when I was born that I wasn't eating enough and I was too skinny. Probably first and only time I've ever heard that word ascribed to me, skinny. But the point being that my mother was an anxious mother and actually listened to my grandmother that I needed to be fed, not just a meal, but then more because I wasn't putting on weight. And so my mother did. And what happened, there's a story that goes along these lines that after she wanted me to eat more, and she would put a mop on her head and dance around the kitchen. And when I laughed, there'd be a spoonful of more food waiting to
Oh,
enter
wow.
my mouth. Yes. So why am I telling that story? I lost the key body signals and this is wisdom. I lost them, the ones of hunger and satiety, before I even could recognize that I felt hungry or that I had had enough food. So, um, because of that, by the time I was 5, I was a very overweight child. I was put on diet pills when I was in the 4th grade. I was asked repeatedly to scale back my eating from my parents, my family of origin. I was shamed for my body weight and size all through school by, unfortunately, friends, classmates. Much of this unintentional, I know now, but that doesn't mean its impact on me didn't wound, because it did. And so I was left with a tremendous amount of shame about my body from very, very early on in my life, all the way through my mid 30s. At some point in time, well, no, I want to backtrack a little bit and say I was actually, when I look back on it, disconnected from my body. I wasn't paying attention to it. I mean, I would at some point overfeed myself, and then at other points in my history, I would not eat because the desire was to lose weight, to control my food intake so my body size, my body weight would change. And I was totally lost, totally disconnected from my body until probably in my mid 30s. And so once I saw the light, so to speak, what happened was I said, oh my God. I mean, I remember this day, Wendy. I'm in the park with my dog, and I got this, you'll appreciate this. I got this image and taste of tuna fish. Tuna fish. I'm in the middle of the park with my dog, and I'm seeing and tasting tuna fish. And
Huh.
what I recognized, it was my body's way of saying to me, Ilene, one, you're hungry, and two, you need protein.
Mm.
And I'm getting chills as I'm saying that to you because it was one of those significant moments in my life when I said, oh, okay, my body's trying to teach me something. My body's trying to communicate. And maybe I can be more open than I ever have been in my life to listening to that body wisdom.
Did you have the hunger feeling, or it was literally like a signal from the body?
I think that's another wonderful question. And I'm not sure at that moment, because it was the first event, so to speak. Um, I can't answer the question,
Mm.
but I do know that once I got the taste and saw tuna fish, and I did start to feel hungry. But did the hunger signal come first and then that came? I can't say that it appeared to me like that. To be honest with you, I think it was something a little bit more magical in that moment because I needed that little magical hit over the head, so to speak, in
Yeah.
order to have me wake up and start to be in partnership with my body.
Yeah. It's so interesting in just what you're describing in some ways, that disconnect from your own authentic wisdom around your body. In many ways, it sounds like it might have come out of so much external information about what was right, what was acceptable, what was lovable, what was okay, what was safe. Let me just do what everybody needs me to do, and be that way. And that influence externally might have contributed to some of that disconnect from your
Well, you
your
can
innate
take out the
wisdom.
word might and
Yeah.
say it definitely that was the influence. It was the
Yeah.
messages I received. I mean, I got messages, subtle and not so subtle, from both of my parents that thin, and even it wasn't the word thin so much back then. It was it's a certain shape and size. You know, you're shapely, you're a woman, and I wasn't that, and I wasn't going to be that because I was short and fat. But the messages were there, and the messages also, and this is one of the myths you're going to refer to, I'm sure, but that um, you know, taking control in a harsh way of our eating is going to get us to that ideal beauty of a woman for a woman in a particular age and time. And of course, if we look through history, we see that image, that shape and size and what was desirable changed so much
Mhm.
over centuries that, I used to say to myself, well, maybe if I wait another moment, I'll be in vogue. Not that that ever really happened, but the point being that it's changes, it's variable, and yet I was bound up into, and so just to give you just a little piece here of historical reference, um, I grew up with, firstly, Marilyn Monroe, sex goddess, Monroe, beautiful, but really shapely and voluptuous for until my mid-teens. And then Twiggy came into vogue. And boy, talk about a head spinner, going from voluptuous to a 16-year-old girl who weighed 92 pounds of natural weight at whatever height she was, but natural weight at 92 pounds. And so, firstly, I had a shot at Marilyn, maybe, but no way was I ever, ever, ever going to look like Twiggy. But I didn't know that then. So I
Right.
worked and worked and worked so hard on that and lost all of body wisdom and messages as a result. So,
Yeah. You know, I want to say we're kind of talking to expanding this, that it's not necessarily disconnection from the wisdom of our body isn't always, it's not gender. And yet one of the things you brought up in the book was, when did women start to lose, when did the women start to hate their bodies?
right,
And a lot of this influence that came in from,
right,
our culture
absolutely.
around disconnect, and that there is a natural weight for our
Yes,
bodies. And sometimes that weight is going to be a little higher than other
I'll
people's
vote for that
bodies.
one. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think about that too with my, oh gosh, my Italian genes, and being passed on to my daughter. Like we're just kind of like more curvy people, and that's,
Yes,
it's difficult, and it's difficult to sometimes even accept that in this culture, like, oh, is there something we could be doing differently, or is there something that, or do we just let it be because you don't want to create an issue
correct,
around body image and body weight?
correct, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And, a lot of boys are now struggling with this. Certainly a lot of, and this is the heartbreaking thing for me, girls.
Hmm.
81% of 10-year-old girls want to lose weight. Oh my God. 10 years
Yeah.
old, their bones haven't completely grown yet.
Yeah.
They're not in full growth and they want to lose weight. I mean, that's so sad. So
Yeah.
sad.
Well,
And
that's
boys who are, anyway, I could go on and on, Wendy,
no, I
as
actually
I'm
want
sure
to
you know.
unpack it a little bit more. How has, like, dieting or the desire for thinness affected the health and well-being of women, but also people and young children? How?
Well, young children have been extraordinarily affected because they're seeing all of these images on TV and movies, in magazines, and then with the influence, very much so, of social media and the images that they see that are airbrushed and photoshopped and having body parts lengthened or cropped or whatever is done to enhance the image, which isn't real. And but yet the girls don't necessarily have the brain capacity to sort that out yet, unless of course they have a loving mom, you, Wendy, who would be able to talk to them about these influences, which one, aren't healthy, but two, aren't even real. And so the influence is tremendous to not accept who we are, to not be who we are, to not love who we are in our bodies, because our bodies are our homes for this lifetime. And so, what are we doing if we don't take care of where are we going to live? If we don't totally inhabit our bodies.
Yeah.
So the influence is very, very strong with young girls. And isn't it a shame and kind of sort of, I would say, a crime that we're still having body image, body image issues influence our young girls because it leads to life-threatening eating disorders. And we know that there's so much science now about what happens when we're starving ourselves with anorexia or binging and purging with bulimia nervosa. And we're doing such damage to our bodies in service of what? looking like someone who isn't really real on a social media post, or a model who walks the runway or is in Vogue magazine and they're airbrushed and photoshopped. And so, and we're still, and it's not just women anymore, it's men also. I mean, when did it happen that men have to have so much contour in their chests, you know, the six-pack abs, the pecs that are, you know, so they pop out of shirts. Forgive me, but I just get angry, to be honest with you, about how much this has influenced such a broad spectrum of our population, and males and females. And women in their 40s and 50s now are spiking with eating disorders. 40s and 50s. Come on. You know, so I have been trying to help people settle into the home that is their body, to learn from that. And sometimes I'm a salmon swimming upstream.
Yeah. So when you talk about wisdom in the body, how can you say more about how is it connected to intuition? Is it the same? Where would somebody identify the wisdom in their body? Where would they feel it? What does it look like? Can you say more about that?
Yes, I can. And so now I'm going to take you through a bit of Body Wisdom 101.
Okay.
And that is, we have, and it is wisdom because it's programmed into us. We have wisdom about when to eat, what to eat, how much to eat. We have wisdom about our need for sleep. Our bodies are going to communicate when we haven't had enough and that we need sleep. Our bodies are going to communicate about movement. Bodies were made to move. And I quip with people, that's why we were born with arms and legs. Our bodies were made to move. Otherwise, you and I would be sitting here, two big heads, without arms and legs. We're supposed to move, and bodies require movement to do the stuff of daily living, to do the stuff of eliminating, which is another piece of body wisdom. And how many times, Wendy, have we been sitting in a meeting and we felt the need to urinate, and we hold it, and we hold it, and we hold it, and that's not healthy. Our bodies are going to say, you get the urge to pee, go pee, so you don't get a urinary tract infection and God knows what else. We have a body wisdom that says, I'm holding up a glass of water here, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. The body needs to be hydrated in order for the brain to function properly. So some of the basic functions of the body, that's Body Wisdom 101, because they are communications from the body that this is what you need in order to be a human being that is active in the world and wants to think and wants to take care of children and do the job that you want it to do. And the point being, so I'm getting around to your question here. So if we are so hyper-focused on body image, if we're so hyper-focused on redesigning our bodies, or in the hopes of redesigning our bodies into something that they're not, then there's no way we can pay attention to any messages, the basic messages, or even a message of, it's late at night, somehow I got separated from my friends. I'm walking down a dark street and something happens to me. If we were better equipped to pay attention to our bodies and to say, my body's in partnership with me in so many ways, it is highly possible, I can't promise this, highly possible that we would have gotten a message somehow, whether it was hair on the back of our necks that was starting to prickle up, or a sense somewhere in the body that there was. So when I had gotten to the point where I was starting to pay attention to my body, and I had, to be honest with you, had it up to my eyeballs with trying to reshape my body. And it wasn't going to be reshaped. I wanted to be 5'6". Well, I'm sorry, I'm 5 feet tall. It's not going to happen. You know, I'm from Russian peasant stock. I'm not going to have thin thighs, not like a runway model. Not that I ever wanted to be that, but you get the image and the point. But when I could let a lot of that go and say, no, I really want to take care of my body, do justice to my body, and learn about what my body has to teach me. That's when the intuition, not just the Body Wisdom 101 messages, started to come in a far more pronounced way, but the intuition started to come in. And, you know, I've been on that path ever since.
You know, it's interesting because the Body Wisdom 101, in many ways, is very grounding to pay attention to the body. Like, I am thirsty. I am hungry. I am tired. It is to even how many of us overlook, how many, James, how many of us, overlook the 101 and not pay attention to the body and actually equate that to feeling a little more ungrounded. Like, I'm
Absolutely.
caught in my day, I'm up in my head, and then here I am trying to fix my weight from up in my head.
Right, exactly. And not just to overlook Body Wisdom 101, but override it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Override it. And I can't tell you how many letters I've written to my body in apology for all of the things that I did to it, how I starved it, how I overfed it, how I overexercised it, how I deprived it of sleep because
Yeah.
I thought I was above it, above sleep. Oh, come on. You know, now as I'm later in my life, I recognize the importance of all of those um, grounding messages from the body. And yes, they are grounded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just also recalling here in your book, you have some of those like communications with your body or like manifestos with or like declarations with yourself. I'm willing
Yes.
to end this here, to start connecting to
Yes.
myself in this way.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and I know that connecting to the wisdom of your body is like an ongoing process. Um, and it takes some time. It takes probably support and a container. And I know that we're going to be doing here, with us at the School of Intuitive Studies, you're going to be teaching a course coming up this winter. If anyone hears this after the winter, then there'll be recordings on it. But so there is a time to go deeper into unpacking and more connecting to the wisdom of the body. I'm just wondering for now, is there any like basic practice, basic suggestion you might want to offer the listener as like step one, or just something that can really help connect to that wisdom in the body?
I'm going to offer this because I truly believe there are a lot of people out there, and not just women, but men also, who don't fully grasp that we were born knowing how to eat. Part of that innate wisdom. We were born, to me, it was life changing. I was born knowing how to eat. What do you mean? I had never not been on a diet for, 30 plus years of my life in some form. So I would offer to your listeners something along the lines of get intimate with your hunger. Get to know your hunger. And so for me, it was identifying, how do I know I'm hungry? Well, hunger comes in little blips, so to speak. It's not like we get walloped with it, but a lot of people feel that way because they have ignored the preliminary hunger signals. So start to think or start to feel actually in your belly, talk about grounding, in your belly. What are my first signs of hunger? What are the next signs of hunger? So for me, the first sign is like I envision it as this little baby hole in my belly, and it's empty. And so my belly feels just ever so slightly empty. And then 10, 20 minutes later, it's that the hole gets bigger and I can feel the emptiness grow. And it's possibly at that point that I will start to experience a little grumble, rumble in my belly. And for other people, it might not be that. It might be they start to salivate. For other people, it might be they get a little bit shaky, or they get a little brain fog, or they get, what's the term? Hangry, hungry and angry. So irritated and hungry at the same time, whatever it is. So I could tell everybody what my signals are, but my signals, Wendy, aren't your signals or anybody else's necessarily. And so we have to get intimate with our own hunger. And hunger is such, our hunger, which is a sign, by the way, and I never learned this, of a healthy body. Real, true body hunger, not mind hunger, not the cravings, but true body hunger is a sign of a healthy body, for goodness sake. And yet we were pushed away from not identifying with our hunger, not experiencing our hunger. And hunger was something to be ashamed of. It meant we were weak. Okay, I grew up feeling that if I got hungry, I was weak. And I remember crying as a kid because I was so hungry, but I couldn't eat because my father didn't get home from work until 6 o'clock. And I'm hungry at 4:30. And I'm crying because I can't even have a little snack. Because, of course, number one, it'll affect my appetite for dinner. And two, because I'm fat. So we need to get intimate with our hunger. And for me, that was the doorway in. It was the doorway into body wisdom. And then from that, oh, okay, so my body's telling me about I'm hungry. My body can also tell me when I'm experiencing true joy. Okay, and my body can tell me when I might be approaching danger. So that step 2 and 3 can't happen without our getting in. I truly believe if we have the issue that I had, we can't experience other forms of intuition if we're denying our body messages. And one of the key ones for many of us is hunger.
Mm. That's so great, Ilene. And I think about when I think about it for myself, the not having clearly defined the early onsets of hunger. Like I know hunger when there's brain fog. I know hunger when it's hangry. I know hunger when my blood sugar's going down. I know hunger at those stages. But the steps before then is like that's where I need to get intimate. Like what is early onset hunger
Early onset hunger, I love it. I
You
do,
know,
I
looking
do.
like,
And the experts say if we let it go to hangry, to blood sugar dropping, brain fog, that kind of thing, we've waited too long to eat.
yeah,
And we're
yeah.
gonna overeat as a result.
And eat the wrong things. Eat whatever's
Exactly,
fast and whatever's gonna, whatever we can shove in to get the blood
exactly.
sugar back up.
Without chewing, swallowing without chewing because we're so hungry.
Yeah,
I mean, really.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So great. This is so wonderful. I have one more question I wanted to tie in here, because you mentioned it to me prior, but the inner child. And I
Yeah.
just did a couple of episodes on the inner child, and I wanted to know if you could elaborate on it and what the role of the inner child plays in understanding our body's wisdom and our intuition, how that
Yeah.
ties in.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Well, there are a few of us, I think, who have gone through childhood without some degree of trauma.
Hmm.
Some would say low level trauma, some would say, no, I experienced a tremendous amount of trauma, but trauma is trauma. And when that happens, and that little girl um, or that little boy has not had support through whatever it was, um, when that child was little, that child is, I mean, my picture of it for me is I'm sitting there in my sacral chakra, sucking my thumb and crying because I did not get support um, as a result of the wounds that I experienced when I was a kid, and not just about fat issues, about lots of other stuff. And so that inner child is needs us to reparent him or her so that and I'll speak for me now, that little girl will be able to say, I'm not hungry. So the adult Eileen or the adult Wendy might say, well, I'm anxious and I'm going to go put something in my mouth to calm me down. Some people take a Xanax and some people take chocolate chip cookies. I would be the chocolate chip cookie person. And that little girl has often said to me, if I allow her to speak, and because I now listen to her and love her and hold her and let her speak, she said, I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry. Isn't that a blessing to have our inner child be a wisdom part of ourselves, to be able to say, no, you can wait. And so the inner child in all of us needs reparenting in many key ways. We're talking about now body wisdom. And in whatever way that little one was affected by early upbringing. That body wisdom was suppressed, squelched, not allowed. Even, I mean, what's coming to me right now is, no, you don't feel that way. A message I used to get, or go to your room because I'm angry. Okay, go to your room. And so that little one is still left um, feeling the need for some support and some love. And I've learned to give that to her. And I think the more any of us can learn that he or she, the little ones in us, are alive and well, those parts of ourselves are still alive and well. If we can give them the love that they need and want, they will, like the body itself, they will guide us to health and well-being.
Yeah.
And they will teach us about partnership with the body. Did I answer your
Yeah,
question?
absolutely. And I just want to bridge in one part here which is that we're talking about the binary approach of little boy, little girl, but then there are people who didn't identify as either. They identify as both or a blend or have a non binary or a fluid aspect of gender, and how the societal construct externally could have been a pressure that enables that child or inner child to disconnect, or the self to disconnect from the inner child, because I don't fit the body image, I don't fit the construct, the feeling inside doesn't match the expectation externally. So I just wanted to bring in that, and some people might identify as like, my inner child is fluid in that way. And
Oh,
so that, as long as we can connect to the authenticity of what the true feeling is of the inner child, that's connecting the body wisdom.
absolutely. And I'm so
Yeah.
glad you brought that up. Thank you for that, because you're right. And this societal pressure can absolutely squelch any of the wisdom that that child could bring to bear on could bring to bear. And a child is a child. If a child
Yeah.
needs love and support, to be held and cared for and to be affirmed, a child is a child and needs that love.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
And how much just to bringing it full circle with the wisdom of the body, about how much, like you said, the inner child is an aspect of that wisdom. And by connecting to that part of us, we can, maybe we get connected to the early onset hunger, hunger sensations.
Absolutely. I believe that to be true, what you just said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm.
Thank you, Eileen. This was so enlightening and supportive. And I know it's a lot of people's experience. So thank you for bringing the conversation forward. And there's actually a lot more. I mean, Eileen has her book. And where can we find it, Eileen?
We can find it we can get it, the ebook, on Amazon.
Okay.
And we can find it on one of my websites, findbodyfreedom.com. And if you go to products and services and click on book, you can get the hard copy. And if you get
Great.
that, I will I will write in on the first page directly to you.
Signed copy if you
Signed
order from Eileen.
copy. Yes,
Wonderful. Reflections of
yes.
a Fat Girl, Wisdom Lost and Found from Growing Up Overweight. It's Eileen Leshinsky. Thank you so much, Eileen, for being here with us. I know we'll see you again, as we're also going to be offering a course that Eileen will be leading, and we'll keep everyone informed about that through our through the School of Intuitive Studies email list and social channels. And so if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to our social channels. You can go to schoolofintuitivestudies.com. Facebook is School of Intuitive Studies, Instagram, School of Intuitive Studies. And I'm also on there, Wendy DeRosa, in both Instagram and Facebook and .com, all of it. So Eileen, and your website once again, Eileen, is?
I'm going to give you the new website, Wendy, EileenLashinsky.com.
Wonderful.
The other one, where the book is located, is findbodyfreedom.com.
Great. Eileen, thank you so much. It's an honor
Thank
to have
you,
you.
Wendy. This was fun. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you.